Okay, my name is Howard Eber, and this is we're welcoming you to week number 48 of this cycle, just of this cycle of the Big Book Comes Alive Step Study Workshop. We have been doing this on Sunday evening nonstop for probably close to 15 years. It's been quite a ride. So thank you all for joining us. Thank those of you who are still here from those early days. There are a few people, so thank you for that. We have been doing a lot of work the last few weeks about amends. We've been talking about what do you say? How do you approach different types of amends? And we've also been looking at something that's probably more important or just as important as what you do say is to pay attention to the things we don't say. The things that we don't say that will only make the amends worse, cause more pain, and cause us to have to come back another time. So we spent plenty of time over the last few weeks talking about that. If you weren't here and you'd like copies of some of the handouts, just drop me a note at the Big Book Comes Alive, bigbookstudy at AOL.com, or check out the website. Andy posts it with the recording so you can get it there. Number of different ways. But we have covered, I think, adequately the amends process for the time being. And last week we spent the entire week talking about how far we've come, that these quote promises on page 83 and 84, as far as I'm concerned, they're really not promises so much as they are observations, observations of what life looks like in this fourth dimension. We have entered the world of the spirit. What does it look like? What does it seem like? And so on page 83 and 84, we're told. And as you need, in order to fully appreciate um, the amount of work we've done, we had to have a starting point. Had to have a control point. And I use the quote so-called bedevilments on page 52 as a starting point. What life was like before the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth step. What was life like when all we did is stop drinking? On page 51, Bill says that we stopped, we see why life was so unsatisfactory, even though we weren't drinking. So we put aside the bottle and life didn't get better. I don't know about you, but I thought when I came in here, all I had to do was stop using and everything would fall into place. And it didn't, and it doesn't. There's a lot of work that has to be done between 52 and 82. And if we do that work, the things that we notice up on page 52 about what our life is like at step two, we can now compare it to what life is like as we embark on 10, 11, and 12, not the maintenance steps. The hair on the back of my neck stands up when I hear people refer to 10, 11, and 12 as maintenance steps. Maintain, if you look up in the dictionary, one of the definitions is to keep something the same, which, if nothing else, is a violation of basic physical law. Nothing ever stays the same. We are always in a state of motion. We are moving towards something or away from something, advancing or regressing. There's state of flux. So I like to look at the 10th, 11th, and 12th step as continued growth steps, because Lord knows we've done a lot of work to get to this point, and we don't want to go backwards. So we want to continue moving forwards. And God, thank God, God and Bill has given us steps 10, 11, and 12, which are a roadmap for how to do that. And I also like to think of 10, 11, and 12 as relapse prevention steps. Because if somebody goes out with a certain degree of sobriety, and then when they come back, we ask them the usual questions, and I think they're not the appropriate questions. You know, when did you stop going to meetings? Did you stop calling your sponsor? All of those things have some bearing, but I think the more important questions are, how much time did you spend each day deepening and enriching your spiritual life through intensive one-on-one work with other alcoholics. What was that? Oh, not much? Oh, okay. How much time did you spend each day in prayer and meditation? Oh, not much there either. How much time did you spend each day in inventory? Also not much. Well, guess what? You were destined to relapse if you weren't following those steps. That's 10, 11, and 12. It's about prayer and meditation. It's about working intensive work with others, and it's about inventory every day. This isn't one and done. This is stuff we do every day. And the material we're going to be looking at today, next week, tells us how to do that, gives us the instructions for that 10th, 11th, and 12th step. We're on page 84, I believe. We finished the middle paragraph. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, because some of us work faster than others, sometimes slowly. Some of us work slowly. Now, I've also heard that explained as sometimes quickly is like a spiritual experience, and sometimes slowly is more of a spiritual awakening. I could see that, but I also see it has to do with how much effort are we putting in? How much time are we putting in? How much work are we putting in? It will happen quickly if we do a lot of work quickly, and it will take a long time if we do it slowly. May not even happen at all, but they will always materialize if we work for them. If we work for them. So we're in the middle of the page, and Bill says, this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue. And please underline that word, continue. Let's take note of how often he uses that word in the next page or two. We continue to take personal inventory and continue, there we go, 2 on one line, to set right any new mistakes as we go along. Please underline new, as we go along. I like to think of the 10th step as my daytime walking around step. It's the step I use in the course of the day to deal with the events of the day. Do you need some more room? You good? Oh, yeah. Excuse me just a minute.
I'm in chat, but
There you go. Okay. I like to think of the 10th step as my daytime walking around step. It's a step I use in the course of the day to deal with the events of the day. It is, as you will see momentarily, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th step all rolled into one. And I challenge anybody to work those steps on a daily basis and not grow spiritually. I don't think that's possible. So, and I've also heard this step referred to as a step that we do at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, we're asking for help to get out of some jam that we're in. If I'm asking for help at night in bed, I don't know. I'm not as young as I used to be. I don't get in trouble at night in bed anymore, but I get in trouble during the day plenty. And that's why I need my 10th step to get me out of the jams that I'm in as I proceed through the day. So let's see if we could pick up what steps Bill is talking about here. And well, let's go through it. Let's highlight this whole next sentence. We vigorously commenced this way of living as we clean up the past. When do we start work on step 10? As we work 8 and 9. So when we take a step off of step 7 to move into the amends process, we're also moving into the world of 10, 11, and 12. We commence this way of living. What's this way of living? Above this way of living, I've written steps 10, 11, and 12, because that's what we're going to be talking about here. So we commenced, not commenced. We vigorously commenced. You do something with great vigor, it's with force and effort and determination. We vigorously commenced this way of living, steps 10, 11, and 12, as we cleaned up the past. So as we work through 8 and 9, we're also beginning this way of life of 10, 11, and 12. It starts to get real serious here. Please highlight actually highlight the rest of the paragraph, make life easy so we don't have to keep stopping and starting. I'm going to highlight the rest of it. And this next sentence, our next function, you may want to underline that word next, is to grow. And I've underlined grow in understanding and effectiveness. It doesn't say maintain understanding and effectiveness. It says to continue to grow in understanding and effectiveness. But one might ask, growing in understanding and effectiveness of what? Well, next to that sentence, I've written, and please hold your place on this page. See page 77, 0. For the answer to that question, we're going to have to go back a few pages to 77, 0. 3 lines down from the top of the page, it says the following. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves. That means to take some actions in preparation of something, to fit ourselves to be, and here it is, maximum service to God and the people about us. That's our job. We're told even back in the 3rd step when we had a new employer, and we were told what our job was to stay close to him and do his bidding. Well, here we are a few pages later, and he gives us a little bit more of an indication of what does that mean, his bidding? Well, maximum service to him and the people about us. That's our job from this point on. And here on page 84, as we get further into this work, he's telling us that we grow in understanding and effectiveness of being of maximum service to God and the people about us. The more we work 10, 11, and 12, the more we work 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, the more we're preparing ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. So step 10 indicates that we're now going to get into overdrive here and grow in understanding and effectiveness and how to be of service to God and the people about us. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for a lifetime. You may want to understand that, underline those 2 sentences, because, God, I hate this expression, but time takes time. You know, I always wanted, when I was told to do, my sponsor would tell me to do something, or I could expect these things, these promises. I took out my calendar and said, okay, what date? I'm going to write it down because I'm going to expect it to happen on that date. And it's not the way it is. It's not the way it happens. We have to give things time. And as you always told me, the problem with time is it takes time. And I'm not real good with that, but I'm getting better. I'm getting better because I'm growing in understanding and effectiveness. That's how I'm getting better. So it should continue for a lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Let's put the number 1 in front of the word continue, because that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to continue to watch. It doesn't say continue to wait for these things. It says continue to watch for these things. That's number one. We continue to watch for what? What I like to call the Fantastic Four of AA, because these are the four things Bill uses all the time: selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. It's got a beat to it. Well, keep an eye out for it, because the first thing we're supposed to do in step four is watch for those things. You know, I've never been in the military. As I told you guys, I was a short, overweight, nearsighted, asthmatic Jew from New York who'd never been in any form of the armed services. To me, a bayonet was a cute cheerleader from New Jersey. What the hell did I know about weapons? So I don't know much about the military. But I've been told that when you go out into the jungle or when you go out in search of the enemy, that there's somebody on point whose job it is to watch the horizon, to watch for the enemies. And when he sees them, he sends a signal, a prearranged signal to his fellow soldiers who are a few feet behind him in the trenches. He's telling him basically put down the cards, pick up the gun, and come here. There's trouble up ahead. Watch for those things. I always picture a guy with binoculars, watching and watching and watching. And that is a continuous effort. So another continuous reference. So we continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. What does that step sound remind you of? Step four. So above selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, I've written step four. So the first thing we're going to do is through the course of the day, we're going to work step four. Then he says, when these crop up, please notice it doesn't say if these crop up. They're going to crop up. 100% guaranteed. Ironclad guarantee these things will crop up. So what do? Here's number two. Number two, we ask God at once to remove them. Now, are we asking God to remove them now? No. We're not telling him to remove it at once. We are at once asking him. We are doing our part. We are responding right away. God will do what God will do in the time he wants it done. He's not my errand boy. I don't say, God, I want you to remove this fear from me now. Now. It doesn't work like that. I have to ask it once. And God does his job when he does his job. And I don't understand it, so I just go along with it. So when these crop up, here's the second thing we do. First thing we do is we watch. Second thing we do is we ask God to remove them. What step is that? 6 and 7. So we've already got 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the first two sentences of the 10th step. Continuing, we ask God at once to remove them. Number 3, we discuss them with someone immediately. Immediately. Not when it happens at 9 o'clock in the morning and I wait till 10 o'clock at night to call my sponsor and wake him up out of bed to tell him about something that happened 14 hours ago. That doesn't go over very well. Why didn't you call me when it happened, when you remembered everything clearly? Here you are 12 hours later throughout the rest of the day, and you've had time to analyze your part and their part. And there is no part in this stuff. But the fact is, when we sit on these things and don't talk about them immediately, we start to do those things. So that's something that at 9 o'clock in the morning may have been something that I contributed to. By the time it gets to 10 o'clock at night and I'm telling my sponsor about it, I don't know what the problem was. I was sitting there doing nothing and he just came over and did that to me. Can you imagine? Things change when we give it time. So number one, watch for selfishness, dishonesty. Number two, when they crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. The third thing we do, we discuss it with someone immediately. Step 5. So now we got 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We discuss them with someone immediately. Please underline that word, immediately. Not the next day, not the next week, not at your weekly call when you go through the book with your sponsor. Oh, by the way, I accidentally killed someone the other day and I forgot to tell you about it. So look, can we talk about it now? No. Okay. Immediately and make amends quickly. Make amends quickly. Sounds like 8 and 9 to me. Underline quickly, please. And we do that if we have harmed anyone. So number 4, step 4 in this process is if we make amends quickly, if we've harmed anyone. Number 1, we watch. Number 2, we ask God. Number 3, we discuss them. Number 4, we make amends quickly. Number 5, we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Please underline turn our thoughts to someone we can help. That doesn't mean necessarily that I rush out, go down the street to the corner grocery store and stand there to hold the door for the little old ladies that come by. It means turn my thoughts to someone I could help. That may be somebody at this evening's meeting who's struggling with something, maybe an illness, maybe some other crisis that they're one of life's vicissitudes. What if I called him, her? What if I just prayed for that person? I'm turning my thoughts to someone I could help. I'm not just thinking of me and me and me. I turn my thoughts to someone I could help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. Please underline that, and you may want to circle that word, the word of others is our code. Too often at meetings, I hear people say, we'll love you until you learn to love yourself. And that always frustrates me because I don't think that's what this is about. There's more than enough narcissism to go around in this world today. We don't need any more of it. I didn't come in here to learn how to love myself. I came in here, I didn't realize it at the time, but I came in here to stop thinking of only myself and to start to give a damn about someone else. So it should be, we'll love you until you learn to give a shit about someone else. That's really what it should be. That's what we're here to learn how to do. I don't need to learn better ways of building myself up. I need to care about other people. Now, I want to go back through the directions for the 10th step and point out a few things. Number 1, we continue to watch. Please circle the W and watch. And if you have the study version, in the blank page opposite this, the blank page that's in every other page, I'm going to suggest you put the W on that side of the page. Underneath the W, here's number 2. When these crop up, we ask God, ask. Please put a circle around the A and ask. And we'll isolate that letter opposite it. So now we have W. Underneath that, we have A. And here comes number 3. We discuss them with someone immediately. Please circle the D and discuss. And in the opposite page, or if you don't have the study version, you can write it on one of your note sheets. It's actually in one of the sheets we sent out. Number 3, discuss, D. So we've got watch, W, A, ask, D, discuss. Someone immediately, and make amends. A, let's circle the A in amends quickly. If we've hurt someone, so we've got watch, ask, discuss, amend, and here's the fifth one. We resolutely turn. Please circle the T in turn our thoughts to someone we can help. So on that opposite page, we have W A D A T. Wadat. I'm a bit of an idiot. I don't, my memory gets worse and worse as I get older. It gets, it's my memory is like a paper on like a roll of toilet paper. As you get closer to the end, there's very little left in there, and I need every help, every aid I can get to remember things. And this is how I remember the 10th step. Wadat. I have it on a post-it looking right at me here on my desk. WADAT. Watch, ask, discuss, amend, turn. And I'll let you in on a little secret. You get used to doing this, and it's a daily thing, because I don't know about you guys, but there isn't a day that doesn't go by when I haven't noticed restless, or I haven't noticed being selfish, dishonest, resentment, or fear for one of those things is cropping up. So, what was I about to say? I watch for them. A day doesn't go by when I don't have to use those. Oh, I was going to tell you about the shortcut. Sorry about that. See, I told you my memory's going, and I just proved it. As you get better at this, as you do this by repetition, and that's the only way we get better at it, it could almost be like this. Instead of watch, ask, discuss, amends, turn, it could be watch, turn, watch, turn, watch, turn. We can do those intervening things at the same time, real fast. If we get good at it, we can go from watch to turn in a blink of an eye, and we will have accomplished the asking and discussing and making amends. And so we're right up to turning our thoughts to someone we could help. It could actually be that quick. Just a suggestion. Andy, would you mind putting up six, 84-2. It's step 10. There we go. This basically breaks down what it is we've just discussed. We watch, we ask, discuss, amend, and turn. But also, besides the directions, watch, ask, discuss, amends, turn, we're also told something else. Andy, if you roll it down a little bit, we're told when we're supposed to do these things. Each one of those steps, those points, I don't want to confuse everyone with steps, those points needs to be done promptly. It needs urgency, because urgency is the best means of early detection for any illness, any illness. So we watch for these things. We continue to watch for these things. When they crop up at once, we do something. Then we make amends quickly. Then we turn our thoughts. There's urgency. There's follow up here. We do it. We continue to watch. When they crop up, we ask at once. We discuss them immediately. We make amends quickly. And then I move on to think about helping others. And one of the things I've added at the bottom of this is a quote from my big book mentor, Charlie Parmalee. bless his heart, uh, said this. He said, "It looks to me like if we follow the directions in the book, then we're going to be doing steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 12. If I'm turning my thoughts to someone I could help, that's 12 every day on a daily basis for the rest of our lives. I defy anyone to do those steps on a daily basis and stay the way you are. You just can't do it. You can't do 10 step the way the book says to do it. You can't do it and stay the same way you are. You just can't. If you work this step the way the book tells us to do it, our relationship with God gets better. Our relationship with ourself gets better. Our relationship with our fellow man gets better and better and better. And you know what happens? A new dimension of living that we never dreamed existed will open to us. We have entered the world of the spirit. We are still talking about what does it look like here in the fourth dimension? And this is how we stay there by practicing these things. And at the bottom, as I said, the way I look at this step, it's my daytime walking around step. It's the step I use in the course of the day to deal with the events of the day. When that safe drops on you, what do? Pull out that 10 step. Pull out that 10 step. Okay, let's go on to the next paragraph. Um, and we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. I've highlighted that. I've underlined it, and you may want to highlight it in pink, but certainly what comes after it is highlighted in pink all the way through to the end of the next paragraph. These are the step 10 promises, which I kind of prefer to the step 9, but be that as it may, we all have favorites. So we have ceased fighting anything or anyone. In other words, we are in harmony spiritually, mentally, and physically. Remember, we talked last week about working the first 3 steps gets us healthy in harmony spiritually, and 4, 5, 6, and 7 gets us right, gets us healthy, gets us in harmony mentally. And steps 8 and 9 does the same in the physical dimension. So if we've worked those steps in that order, we're perhaps for the first time in our lives healthy spiritually, mentally, and physically. And we are walking in what Bill refers to as the fourth dimension of existence, which he explains as the harmonious blend of the other 3. I know there's the speaker going around talking about there are only 2 dimensions. There's 3. It's very clear in the book. There are 3. There's the spiritual, the mental, and the physical. And if there were only 2, we wouldn't call that one in the harmony one fourth dimension. We'd call it the third dimension of existence. But we call it the fourth because it unifies the other 3. Doesn't take a genius as far as I'm concerned. So I'm pretty convinced that it is. There are 3 basic dimensions. And as a result of doing this work, I've ceased fighting anybody or anyone. What a great feeling that is, isn't it? You know, to not wake up and have that list of, oh, this son of a bitch did that, and I got to go do this, and I'm going to get even with this one, and why did they do this to me? And it is so nice to not get up and have to deal with that nonsense. So we've ceased fighting anything or anyone. In other words, the promise of the second step has been fulfilled, right? Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. If I am in harmony spiritually, mentally, and physically, I've been restored to sanity. Why am I getting so much noise here? Let me mute everyone just to be on the safe side. There we go. Sorry about that. Um, so we've ceased fighting anybody or anything. And as I said, the promise of that second step has been fulfilled. Our sanity has been restored. How do I know that? I could read. That's what the next sentence tells me. For by this time, sanity will have returned. I just cheated a little bit. I went a sentence ahead, but I would underline that incidentally. That's the promise of the second step being fulfilled. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as if from a hot flame. When you recoil from something, it's you draw back, you rebound from something, you retreat from something. You retreat if we're tempted, we recoil as if from a hot flame. Does that sound familiar? Let's hold our place here. And let's turn to where it says as if from a hot flame underneath it, right? Let's see page 24, paragraph 2. And on page 24, paragraph 2, the last rather lengthy sentence, one of Bill's run-on sentences, there's a complete failure of the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on a hot stove. Right after, before he said this, he said what I consider to be the famous italics on page 24, which explains that we've lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We're unable at certain times, and that means it's going to absolutely happen, bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. In other words, we touch that hot stove and burn ourselves. And we do it again and again and again because we lack the ability to not do that. We can't stop ourselves from reaching out and touching that hot stove. But that's back on page 24. That's back on step 2. We've done a lot of work from 24 now to 84. And if nothing else, we know not to put our hands on a hot stove. We've learned that much. We recoil from those thoughts of alcohol and drugs instinctively, as if a hot flame. Continuing, and incidentally, when he says, well, by this time, sanity will have returned, remember back in step 2, we define sanity as the ability to recognize the truth in any given matter, that we know we don't fool ourselves, we don't lie to ourselves about things like, well, this time it'll be different. This time I'll stop at this, I'll stop at 3, or whatever lie nonsense we tell ourselves. The point is, in step 2, we're talking about being restored to a position, to a mindset where we can always see the truth. We can always see, that's bad, that's good, that'll hurt me, that won't. I'm no longer delusional. I can tell the difference. And that's what's being applied here. We now know the truth from a lie. Took a while to get here, but we've arrived at that point where we're not blinded by lies, the illusions, the obsessions, the delusions, all of those things we talked about back in there as a solution. Remember those 4 words we talked about? Well, they're gone. We don't do that anymore. So, continuing, we react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. Please underline that word automatically. It means instantly, instantaneously. It means something we do without thinking. This book represents, I think, the greatest, most effective method to treat alcoholism in the history of the world, in the history of mankind. There hasn't been anything that comes close to being as effective as Alcoholics Anonymous. And nowhere in this book does it say, okay, now's the big day, quit drinking. Doesn't say that. There's no point in this book that says this is the day, this is the big day, guys. You quit drinking. It doesn't say that. What it says is when I apply these spiritual principles at some point in the process, the obsession will be removed and it will happen automatically. We won't even realize, wait a minute, I didn't think about using today. It happens automatically. That's what the book is promising me. It's not saying when I get to page 85, this is the day you stop. It's telling me if I do these things that we've been talking about for the last few pages, and I do them constantly, then at some point in that process, I'm going to notice that the obsession is gone and it happened automatically. No warning signs. It just happened. Continuing with that thought, Bill says, we'll see that our new attitude towards liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. And please underline these three words. It just comes. And in case we miss the significance of that, I've underlined the next little sentence. That's the miracle of it. That's the miracle. Just for laughs, you may want to, maybe in the blank area or somewhere else, define that word miracle. We use it a lot. We should know what it means. A miracle is defined as an extraordinary event manifesting divine intervention in human affairs. In other words, it's a free gift from God. That's what a miracle is. It's an event that displays divine intervention in human affairs. I always tell my people, and I know I've said it here before too, that when I go to bed at night, before my head hits that pillow, I always ask, where did I see God today? He's always there, always there. And I have to remember, and I have to give credit where credit is due, because I can forget too. So at some point, these things are removed and it just happens automatically. And by the end of the day, I need to acknowledge that they happened today. Is it God or is it God? There are no coincidences. And that's what a miracle means to me. If alcohol was a symptom of my spiritual disease, right, was a symptom of my malady, then sobriety is a symptom of my spiritual condition. That is how we react so long as we remain in fit spiritual condition. And the rest of this chapter tells us how do we stay in fit spiritual condition. From this point on, that's what Bill is going to be emphasizing. How do we stay in fit spiritual condition? So let's continue. That's the miracle of it. We're not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality. I've underlined neutrality, and above it I've written indifferent. Indifferent to it. Doesn't matter. I forget who I heard say this. they drew a parallel about keeping alcohol in the house. That it's a dangerous thing, and he said, you know what? I also have paint thinner and other dangerous chemicals in my basement. And I don't worry about them and I don't think about them during the day. I'm indifferent to them. And I think of alcohol the same way. I'm indifferent to it. It may be in my house, but there's a reason for it. Family comes over or whatever, whatever legitimate reason you have for it. But I love the fact that he equated it with all these other poisons under your bathroom sink, under your kitchen sink, in the basement, in your workroom. There's plenty of poisonous chemicals, and I bet you don't think about it once each day. And that's what we're talking about. Okay. So that's being neutral. That's being indifferent. Safe and protected. Please underline those 3 words. And let's underline, we have not even sworn off. Remember, we haven't said this is the day it happens. We don't do that. We haven't done that. It just happens. Instead, the problem has been removed. Removed. That's what God does to our drinking problem. He removes it. It does not exist for us, and I've underlined that as well. We are neither cocky, which just means overconfident, nor afraid. That is our experience, not theory, experience. That is how we react, and please underline, so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. There's the catch. So long as we remain in fit spiritual condition. Now, it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action. And I'm going to suggest you highlight this whole paragraph as well. Just keep it simple, in yellow, whatever general color. But it's easy to let up, and I've underlined on the spiritual program of action. In other words, the business of 10, 11, and 12. That's the spiritual program of action, the business that we conduct as a result of 10, 11, and 12. So it says it's easy to let up on that spiritual program and rest on our ass. I know it doesn't say ass, but it means the same thing. It's rest on our laurels. Laurels are those wreaths they used to give the Olympiads in the early days of the Olympics when they'd win what became, I guess, a gold medal. They gave them this laurel that signified they're the greatest, they're the champion. But if they take off that laurel and sit on it, it doesn't do them any good, doesn't show any good. And that's what he's talking about here. We rest on our butt. We're headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Now, I got to apologize to you because I forgot to put a handout in this batch. Andy, you may have it. It's page 85 and 86 in the manuscript. And I'm only going to look for it for a minute, then I'm just going to tell you what it is. Because I think it's interesting. I love the history of this book. And here's an interesting piece of history. Okay. I'm not going to waste any more time on it. Okay. Oh, no, I found it. Look at that. Forget it. Okay. Let's go back. Previous paragraph, 3 lines up from the bottom, says the problem has been removed. You see that? In the original manuscript, that sentence, that phrase, the problem has been removed, is circled. And in the next paragraph, where it says 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down, we are not cured. That is also circled. And Hank Parkhurst drew a line between those 2 circles, and across the page in big letters, he wrote contradiction. It's a contradiction, Bill. You can't have the problem removed and then say you're cured. It's either removed or it's not. So what Bill did is he added a phrase to the second part of the sentence, which says we're not cured of alcoholism. And this is what he added. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. The circle is from the problem has been removed to daily reprieve. My mistake. I don't mean we're not cured. That's not the word that's circled. The words that are circled is daily reprieve. And Hank said that is a contradiction. If the problem has been removed, what do you need a daily reprieve for? If it's gone, it's gone. And so Bill added that phrase, contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. And now it makes more sense. But in the original manuscript, and I'll probably send it out with next week's emails, I apologize. Andy, did you find it? Oh, you dog. You dog. That's great. Okay. Let's go up a little bit. Okay. See at the bottom, the problem has been removed. That's boxed, circled. And Hank is written, and you can see it's Hank because on the left-hand corner of the page, there's his initials. If you slide it over, Andy, you'll see HP in the left. There you go. Hank Parkhurst. Hank drew a line across this page all the way over to the next page, and Andy will show you that in a moment, and circled what we really have is a daily reprieve. And you'll see above it is the words that Bill wrote in, contingent upon the maintenance of our spiritual condition. I love that kind of stuff. I love studying this book and finding out that stuff because it is a contradiction. Thank God our founders knew what they were talking about. If we have a daily reprieve, that means it's gone. It's gone. The problem has been removed. It's one or the other. One or the other. So Bill, in his infinite wisdom, knew exactly how to correct it. He just added contingent upon the maintenance, and I wish he would have changed that word maintenance to continued growth of our spiritual condition, but I could live with that. I just find that interesting. Okay. Please underline this next sentence. Every day is a day when we must, and there's another must, so that's circled in green. This page says this is a very musty book. People who say there are no musts, they're all over the place. I think we got about 146 of them right now. We must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. Please circle all. Not just the days when we feel like it, right? You have to carry that God's vision for us, especially when we don't feel like it. That's when it's more valuable than any other time. When we're feeling great, okay, great, give it away a little bit. But when you're feeling lousy, that's the time you really need to rally and help somebody else. So, when we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities, how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. That's the 10th step prayer that just restates the decision we made in step 3. How best can I best serve thee? Thy will be done. That just restates the decision we made in step 3. There are thoughts, these are thoughts which must, and please circle must, because there are no musts in the book, go with us constantly. And I've underlined constantly, and above it, I've written all the time, 24/7. And I think I said to highlight this, but let's underline we can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. And I'm going to suggest you double underline the next sentence. It is the proper use of the will. Our willpower has been restored. Actually, it was never taken away, but we recognized that we didn't have the will necessary to fix ourselves. But the 7th step introduced us to using our will constructively, that when we're faced with taking an action based on one of those defects, frightened, irresponsible, inconsiderate, dishonest, and so on, when we face that, what do? We ask God to help us practice the opposite of that defect, which would be the asset. And then, watch for it, here it comes. With all of the willpower at our command, we act on that asset, not the defect. It's the proper use of the will. We've been using our will to satisfy ourselves. Me, me, me. What's in it for me? What do I get out of it? Why should I do it? The AA opera. Me, 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 me. But that's not what we're going to do anymore. The proper use of the will is how can I help you? What can I bring to this situation? How can I contribute? How can I be a giver, not a taker? That's the proper use of the will. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction. Please underline that word direction. It doesn't say suggestions. We haven't been receiving strength, inspiration, and suggestions. We've been retrieving direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. And please highlight the rest of the paragraph in pink. If we have carefully followed directions, once again, not suggestions, directions. Remember I told you when when Bill had written How It Works, in the 3rd step, he said we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care and direction of God as we understand them. And it convinced them to take out the direction in the step. But Bill was nobody's fool, because 2 pages later, when he gets into the narrative of the 3rd step, he puts that word back in, and he puts it in repeatedly throughout the rest of the book. See, Bill is cunning and baffling too, not just the disease. Bill Wilson's pretty cunning and baffling. So he put it back in. He kept his word. He said, I will change it in the step. But from this point on, which is from the 3rd page of How It Works, I determine what goes into the book. I'll take suggestions. I'll listen to your ideas. But in the end, there has to be one arbiter of what goes in the book, and it's going to be me or it's going to be somebody else. And they let it be Bill. So he gave them direction removed from the step, but he put it in every opportunity after that. And here's 2 of them. He didn't say suggestions here. He says directions from him who has all knowledge. And then if we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to sense the flow of his spirit into us. Sense the flow. Please underline, begin to sense the flow. To some extent, we have become God conscious. Please circle God conscious. And right underneath it is the words sixth sense. I'm going to suggest you circle that as well, and then put an equal sign between the two circles. That God consciousness equals our sixth sense. So it says, if we've carefully followed directions, we've begun to sense the flow of his spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense. And that's what God consciousness is, our sixth sense. Everything I know, I learned, I accessed through my five senses, what I can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. But I'm expected to establish a method of communication with my creator that cannot be accomplished with those five senses. I have to have another method of communicating with that power. And unfortunately, we've run out of the time today, so we're going to start with this next week. Please be sure to be here next week. If you've ever had doubts, ever had uncertainty, ever been uncomfortable about meditation, we're going to talk about it. We're going to demonstrate it. We're going to teach it next week. It's not very scary at all. But our sixth sense, since it doesn't come from what we taste, touch, hear, smell, and so on, it comes from a sixth sense that we access through prayer and meditation. Prayer is speaking. Meditation is listening. And we're going to learn how to listen better next week. Sorry, we didn't have, it takes at least 20 minutes to do, and we don't have that time right now. So, to some extent, we have become God conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means more action. Once again, Bill is the textbook Jewish mother. No matter what you do, you got to do one more thing, just a little bit more. It's great, but do this a little better, or do that a little more. It's always just a little bit more, a little bit more. Always up in the ante, always keeping that bar out in front of us, so we have to reach for it. But this means we must go further, and that means more action. And we're going to get into prayer and meditation next week. I'm going to stop the recording and see if there's any thoughts that you might have.